Welcome to the OneNFP Financials and Financials Lite training on configuring your computer check. If you're going to produce checks out of the software as opposed to writing manual checks, you'll need to set it up. To begin with, you need to have check stock. OneNFP Financials and Financials Lite has a feature for you to configure how the information prints on the check, so you don't have to match a specific format for your check stock. You can order what you need. When we get started with this process, my recommendation to you is that you start by doing this in the sandbox. The check format feature has an option to do a test print, but that test print prints out the information with X's in each field rather than actual data. Through experience, I've found it's a lot easier to do a payment actually in the software and print that to see if the format is correct, but you're obviously not going to want to do that in your live system. The downside to that recommendation, though, is that you'll do your setup in Sandbox and then have to redo it in Live once you've finalized the settings. So just a recommendation. Now, to start, I want to point you to the bank account card. When you print checks, you will have to have a value in last check number. So before you start this process, go ahead and check that you've got a value there. Now let's search on check design. You have 5 format options in the system: check stub, stub check, check stub stub, stub check stub, stub stub check. Let's go ahead. I'm going to, for this example, pick stub check stub. Now to begin with, this is just selecting which format you want to use. Your first step will probably be to print a payment using this format just to get an initial baseline. You're likely going to have to change that, but just to get started. So from here you can go to the payment journal, and enter a payment for a vendor, and it can be, again, if you're doing this in your sample company, which is my recommendation, it can be for any amount and any vendor, and you pick your bank account. And in the bank payment type, you need to pick computer check. So you'll print check. You'll select your bank account. The reason you do this is you may have a payment journal with checks for several different bank accounts, so you actually have to pick the bank account again. Print. And this will save to a PDF, which you then print. My recommendation would be to print on blank paper and then hold it up against your check stock so that you're not wasting check stock. So once you do your comparison, odds are you're going to have to do this a few times. So the next step would be to void this check so that you can reprint it when you've made some changes. So let's assume we've printed it out, we've done a comparison, we know the baseline needs some modifications. The next step is to click Actions and Personalize Check. These are the fields that are on the check or can be printed on the check. If they've got a checkbox, that means the system is being told to print them. These dimensions are in inches and indicate where the field falls on the page compared to the top and the left margins. My best recommendation is to make an adjustment, go back to your payment journal, print the check, see how it compares, and come back. You're probably going to do several rounds of this as you walk through getting your values set. Once that's defined, write down or take screenshots of these settings so that you can reproduce that in Live. Let's close, and I have one other feature to point out to you. So that at this point you've got your check set up. There is one other feature available to you on the bank account, and that is to include a check signature. To include a signature on the check, you're going to scan in the signature. It needs to be in a BMP or a bitmap file, and import it here. You can actually have 2 signatures if you would like, and you can also have thresholds. For example, if you decide that from 1 to 500, from $1 to $500, Joe signs it, and from $501 to the maximum, Susie signs it. You'd be able to set that up here. That's setting up your check. Thank you very much, and keep your eye out for more training.